coming through me and they don't know
Yeah.
either. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us. Today, it's a beautiful day. Today, we have a guest. My name is Dr. Heinrich Adimo. I am the CEO and the co-founder of World and the founder of World Smart Advisory Group. With World Smart Advisory Group, we help folks build a portfolio and build wealth for the next generation. We talk about finances, we talk about just making your money work for you rather than you working for your money. We're living in very tricky times nowadays that it's not all about how much time you work, but what you put aside and how it grows over time. I have an incredible guest with me today. Jocelyn Wanyu is an accomplished global finance executive, a corporate strategist, a leader, a mentor with extensive experience driving financial performance, strategic growth, and corporate governance across international markets. Within with a distinguished career spanning multiple industries and jurisdictions, she has partnered with executive leadership teams to develop financial strategies that foster sustainable growth, operation excellence, and a long-term business success. She's a Canadian chartered professional accountant, a fellow of the Associate of the Chartered Certified Accountant, and also hold a Master of Science in International Finance from Leeds University. Originally from Cameroon, Jocelyn has built a distinguished career rooted in excellence, integrity, and servant leadership. Beyond her corporate accomplishments, she is a devoted mother of three, an executive coach, and a passionate mentor committed to empowering finance professionals to navigate corporate world with confidence, accelerate their careers, and develop into impactful leaders. Driven by passion for developing people, Jocelyn is dedicated to helping individuals unlock their full potential, achieve professional excellence, and build rewarding careers while creating lasting value for their organization and communities. Her mission to inspire the next generation of finance leaders to lead with purpose, embrace long term learning, and leave a legacy of excellence. It is my honor to welcome you, Jocelyn, a friend that I've known for close to 3 decades today. Thank you on my platform and you're welcome. How are you doing?
Thanks, Dr. Edimo. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be live here, and thanks for the opportunity to join in. It's going great. It's here. I'm here in Canada, Ontario, just outside of Toronto. Nice weather, great start to the day, and looking forward to our discussions.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, Jocelyn, I've known you since the year 2000. I'm sure it's 2000, right?
Yeah,
So it's been
2000 to
20,
2003. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's been 26 years I've known you. Went to the University of Boyer together. You were studying accounting. I was in banking and finance, but we had a lot of classes that intertwined within each other.
that's right.
Let's begin here, right? Let's begin with your story. What inspired you to pursue finance or accounting, and what were some of the defining moments that shaped your career?
Right. Yeah, I'm going to be honest here. Growing up, I always had a passion. I wanted to be a medical doctor. That's all I wanted to be. If you ask me while I was still a kid, that's all I wanted to be. But as I progressed through my years in education, earlier years in education, middle school, high school, I became more interested, especially in economics, right? I really loved economics. I enjoyed mathematics a lot. So when I got to high school, it just so happened one of the days when I was trying to figure out what courses I'm going to take for high school. My mom had a friend who stopped by, and she was like, you know what? Why don't you consider a career in finance? I know people who do really well in finance, and they make, a very good living for themselves. And that's how I just ended up picking economics, geography, and maths when I was in high school. And the rest is history. I really enjoyed it. And, moving on from there, accounting was the path for me, so to speak, when I got to choosing a path in university.
All right. So that was great that the friend of your mom helped you in shaping that. Looking back, right? What advice would you give your younger self? Do you think you're in the right career that you were meant to be? Is there anything that a younger person watching you, somebody in their 20s, in early in your career, if they're doubting in such, if this is a path that they want to follow, what advice will you give your younger self?
Yeah, I think, back then when you're still young and naive, but yet you have to make decisions that are going to shape and define you for the future. You need to key in into people who've been there before, are more experienced, to be able to unlock and help you navigate and make the right choices for yourself. I think back then I probably just got lucky with that conversation, especially, career coaching and all of that wasn't a thing during the days when I was heading up to university or making choices that are going to lead me to university. It wasn't a thing. The advantage that the younger kids or the newer generation has these days is that some of those things are taught in school. You have, people coming in from well-known companies to try and, talk you into joining them, or even just general coaching and mentoring, helping you to make choices for yourself. Back then, it wasn't the case. So I would say, key into people who are more experienced and know these things before you. Of course, you need to follow your passion, but you need to balance it out. Sometimes passion is not always going to make you live a life well lived that's comfortable and good for yourself. You can still follow your passion and still balance that out with decisions that are going to help you live or unlock the full potential for yourself. So back then, I would say I got lucky, but if I had to do anything differently, obviously, speak to people who are more experienced and help navigate those key decisions that are very defining for your future.
That is great. That is great. Before we jump right into your career, right? You left Cameroon. I'm not sure you have traveled before leaving Cameroon. You went to the UK. You did your graduate studies, and you finally migrated to Canada. Can you tell us the journey from you leaving Cameroon to the UK and to Canada and where you are right now?
Okay. Yeah. I was fortunate enough when I finished my undergrad in Cameroon that I got a job for myself. I would say in hindsight, it was a really decent job as an accountant. I used to work for Spectrum. That was my very first job. Um, and at that time, I was somebody who is very passionate, very driven. So I knew what I wanted for myself. I knew that that's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to build something bigger and better. So, through networking, I started speaking to people who were more versed in terms of, traveling abroad, pursuing graduate studies abroad. And I was able to get admission for myself at Leeds University and navigated all of that. Traveling to Leeds, I have to say, leaving your home country and everything behind and going to a country that you don't know and you're starting off from scratch, navigating things as an international student, it was tough. There were days that I was reasonably, I would say, depressed, and I felt like I needed to come back home. And I somehow was questioning whether I was making the right decisions for myself. But I think what got me through is I was able to surround myself with a network of people that really support me. I have a few friends to date that I made through Leeds, a lot of them, a couple of them Cameroonians as well. And we all banded together and supported each other. And that's how I was able to navigate my studies. Now, alongside, while I was in Leeds, at that time they were doing the federal skilled worker. It was very popular for Canada. So I applied for that. It was then a skilled program where they can, where skilled professionals can immigrate to Canada. I applied for that, and that took a while to go through. But I did at some point decide to leave the UK and come back to Cameroon, and that's where I got into public accounting with Deloitte, and kind of progressed my career then while I had that in the back burner in terms of eventually migrating to Canada.
Wow, wow, wow.
I am in
So,
Canada today. Yeah, it's been since 2013 now that I've been here. I think it's a great country with lots of opportunities. You have to, at some points, make very tough decisions where you're leaving everything you've built. Leaving to come to Canada, I already had a very lucrative career for myself, but I had to leave all of that behind and come to start again. You have to navigate that with confidence and be
I
very
see.
certain about the decisions that you're making.
Wow. Deloitte being one of the top accounting and auditing firms, do you regret ever leaving that and moving to Canada?
Um, I would say, to an extent, yes. I've worked in a few companies that are really big and really, kind of defining companies when it comes to my career. I would say, yes, I really enjoyed auditing. Currently, I am actually an internal auditor. Then I was an external auditor. I've been in other finance roles, but I think it's one of those decisions that was a little difficult. Before leaving, coming to Canada, I'd already moved from Deloitte to British American Tobacco at the time through their management trainee graduate program, very high intensity, competitive program. So I'd already made some decisions, but I'm a fighter. I know exactly what I want, and I'm not afraid to leave things behind to pursue the things that I want.
That is incredible. You've built a very successful career across international markets. You've worked with top international companies. What unique strengths do Africans bring to the global finance industries that are often overlooked?
I think diversity of thought and perspective. A lot of teams these days, global companies thrive on diversity. Being able to bring a fresh perspective on the table. I think we're generally very smart, well educated, and pretty advanced when it comes to education. When you want to benchmark with, others, you just kind of find that Africans are way ahead. The minimum person is going to have a graduate degree or something like that, right? We're well educated, but when it comes to being able to fit in, sometimes we struggle. Sometimes our general struggles in life, kind of put us at a disadvantage, I would say. But I think that if you can navigate things with confidence, we have a lot to bring to the table. Very bright minds. The company I work for is pretty diverse. We have people from all over the globe, a lot of people of color like myself, a lot that we bring to the table, key strengths, diversity of thoughts that can really help to advance the company's objectives, I would say.
That is very impressive. You know, we Africans, especially those of us that live in the diaspora, we are always afraid of change. We are always afraid on taking leadership positions because we classify ourselves sometimes as a lower or a second class citizen that maybe we wouldn't be respected, we wouldn't be heard. Will I be able to do this? You being in leadership positions, right? What are some of the things that you can tell the layman out there that you can do it? No matter how you speak, no matter where you come from, but you can position yourself out there to take on some of these leadership roles and skill. What are
Yeah.
some of the techniques that you have done and how it has landed you in some of these high profile roles?
Yeah, I think personal branding is very important. I think about corporate branding. How do you brand yourself? Um, you know, Helps to position yourself for things that are yet to come. I think that being able to be confident that you can or be able to navigate and be in a position to take on certain roles is the first step. I've been on the other side of the table where I am the one recruiting, I'm the one interviewing, I'm the one making decisions of who to hire. You come in through that door, you need to come in with confidence. That beats everything before we even start talking about what your capabilities are. I think that you've hit it right on the head. We always think that we're disadvantaged, we're not going to get it. Why won't you? Why won't you? Why any different, right? Yeah, the reality, I'm not undermining the reality of some of the challenges that we navigate, which are usually some that are pretty significant and different from what others would navigate. You need to come into that room with confidence, and that confidence, it's going to shine right through the way that you articulate yourself, the way that you carry on with those discussions. You have to get and convince the other person on the other side of the table that you want something so bad. And when people want things so bad, they're going to get it and they're going to get it done. It's not about whether you've already been experienced in it. Like, prove to me that you want something so bad and you're going to likely get it. So I think, as we come into the table, you need to be confident. We have the skills, we have the education, we lack the confidence, right? We put ourselves at a disadvantage. Go into the room, walk into a room, speak to people with confidence. Why are you any less than anybody else? I think that's one of the big hurdles that I think that if people can navigate that, everything else is going to come down to, are you capable of doing it, right? That confidence is going to move you from, I don't know, a stage 1 interview to the next one. And it's finally going to come to, are you capable? Are we convinced that you're capable of? Because it's not only about getting the job done. You're going to have to work with teams and collectively achieve results. And you need to be able to fit in. That's going to show through in how you show up.
I've worked with multiple Fortune 500 companies. I'm currently a consultant, but at the same time, I own my multiple businesses that I'm trying to scale. I've worked with multiple C-suite executives, and one thing that I've learned over time is whenever I meet anybody or I'm interviewing folks for any role, the first 10 seconds can tell me if I'll hire you or not. So I totally align with what you said, especially your confidence. I've been in situations where I have hired somebody that knows less of the job than somebody that knows as much, but they didn't have that much confidence in themselves. They didn't portray that, despite the fact that I don't know as much as person B, but I am willing to learn and scale. And that is very, very important with respect to whoever you're hiring. So as someone that has lived in Africa, especially kids, I will not say kids, but young adults that are navigating a very difficult terrain right now. Companies, and we are now with artificial intelligence, they're hiring people from all over the world. Companies are stretching, you don't just have to be in the United States to work for your United States company. I have folks in Cameroon. What advice will you give to those folks that are coming out of college? What are some of the things that they should start looking, especially people that live in Africa, right? Taking advantage of this advent of artificial intelligence and technology and the global village that we find ourselves today.
I think, AI and technology is here to stay. It's the future. You must be able to adopt it, right? So early adopters are the people who are going to, be able to pave through with confidence. I think that, obviously AI also presents a lot of challenges in terms of, the future of certain career paths and stuff. So you need to really be very careful as you think through about, selecting a career path or what have you. But on top of that, I think, and this is probably going to lead to other discussions, being able to live comfortably in life is not only about a job and a career. There's a lot of pathways that you can build wealth. You need to think broadly beyond a career, right? Broadly beyond, I don't know, the future of AI and all of that. Be willing to adopt the new technologies. The people who don't adopt are the people who get left behind. And you need to make sure that your career is fluid, right? Because you pick a certain career path today doesn't mean that you're going to continue to be that. I mean, there's people who start in finance and end up in IT. There's people who start in certain careers and end up, you have to be constantly evolving. The challenges are there. You must evolve if you're going to continue to be able to thrive in the current environment.
Yeah,
and you have to look beyond a job and everything. You have to build wealth. You have to think long term about, building wealth.
Absolutely. We're going to dive into building wealth here at the 20th minute. But I wanted us to start with the career. Many Africans in the diaspora are highly educated, have incredible careers, earning good income, yet relatively few are building significant wealth. What do you think that is?
I think that, ignorance is probably part of it. I think that being able to educate yourself on what the possibilities are out there when it comes to being able to build wealth, it's very important. And you're right, having a thriving career and making good money doesn't always translate to, being able to sustain, build and sustain wealth. And I think that, in the current economies in which we live in, especially those who live, like in the US and Western economies, there's a lot, you have access to a lot of, resources and platforms that you can be able to navigate and help to build, and grow, wealth, right? Again, being able to have a successful career and make enough money doesn't always translate. You must think long term and think about growing, building, sustaining it, or else, being able to make smart decisions for yourself. You can start with the very basic 101 things like budgeting and all of that stuff. Those things go a long way. Takes a lot of discipline, consistency, to be able to stay the course and be able to, sustain that.
You did talk about a mindset shift that needs to happen. Most people they make that statement. You need a mindset shift. You need to change your mindset. What does that mean to you? What does a mindset shift mean to you?
I'll put it into perspective. You move abroad to a new country, you have to integrate. It starts there, right? You move abroad to a new country and you're, really clinging on to your norms and things that you bring from your your values and stuff from your home country, or the cultures and stuff. You cling together with your kinsmen from your old country. You have to integrate, right? The beauty of integration is that it helps you to start to, see how things are done in the society in which you live in, being able to see other perspective from, interactions with other people, and being able to see other possibilities. So I think, for me, in that very simple example, you have to be open-minded, to be able to see things differently, right? And differently from what you're accustomed to, even if initially it doesn't even make sense to you. A mindset shift is going to be the first way in which you're going to position yourself to be able to see what the possibilities are.
Okay.
If you're just interacting with people of a certain, I don't know, I think you made a post the other day that, when you interact a lot with poor people, you start to think something along the lines of, you start to think that poverty is a norm. It's
Yeah.
as simple as that, right? You have to be able to shift and go out of your comfort zone, psychologically, and that's going to position you in places where you're going to see new possibilities and new endeavors that you can pursue.
True. I want us to dig deep in here because it's something that a lot of folks they struggle with. I remember when I moved to the United States 20 years ago. It's been a long time. Um, I moved here. I finished my MBA. I got a job. Before even working through my MBA, I started getting credit cards applications, right? So again, I got a credit card worth $5,000. I started flying here, going to parties and enjoying. Before I realized I've maxed out that $5,000, right? And it's easy to think that you can easily pay that money, but when I got my first job, I was with the state of New Mexico, and I was making close to $25 an hour. That was like in 2008, $28 an hour. That's good money. Rather than me thinking of paying my credit card, I got myself an X5 BMW. So I just started adding myself into debt and debt and debt. So what within your experience or what you've seen out there, right? What are some of the things that even some of the people that have lived here for all these years they are still making? What are some of those mistakes?
I think you hit it on the head. Debt is a killer, right? I think, when you think about taking on debt, you need to think about what your priorities are. I put it in simple terms for my finance folks. If you're going to spend money that's going to end up in your P&L, chances are you're throwing money away, right? We're not saying that you can't throw money away, but how much are you spending that's ending up in your P&L? If you're going to spend money and it's going to end up in your balance sheet as an asset or something, chances are you're going to be able to recoup something out of it or even more than what you'd spent. So in those very simple terms, I say, if you're going to spend on something that you probably didn't budget for, have not saved sufficiently for to be able to purchase for yourself, don't do it, right? Because debt is something that cripples you. Like you mentioned, a 5K, credit card debt seems like nothing, but when you start to try to repay that, you realize that it takes you time. I can give you an example. Back in when COVID started, we got on flights and went to the UK as a family to visit my brother. At that time, I'd not saved for that trip, didn't plan for the trip. That was after COVID, sorry. Didn't plan for the trip, but I used my credit card and I paid for that. I was like, that's nothing. I'm going to pay that off in 1 month. No, it didn't take me 1 month to pay that off. It took me so much longer. And in hindsight, I was like, are you kidding me? That's not even a lot of money. I could easily pay that. But that's how it is. It seems very easy when you're taking on that debt, and it's very difficult to pay it out. So if you're going to plan for big things, plan and budget for them. Put that in your budget. Debt is going to intimidate you, ground you, and prevent you from being able to explore ways that you can be able to grow your money.
That is so true. We as Africans or folks that move to the Western world, we pay more attention to how much we make, how people look at us out there, where we live, what cars we drive, but we pay little attention to the kids that we bring up. I've heard parents say, you know what? I used to live in a very stressful times and I don't want my kids to live in that time. What are some of the things that you are incorporating in your kids right now so that they don't go into that mindset of just going to school, getting a degree, get a job, work, and just live life? What are those small things that you're incorporating in them at this time?
Yeah, I try to walk the talk. My kids think I'm pretty strict, but they make a lot of fun around me and stuff. But I'm not gonna spend on things that I didn't plan for. I think for me, the main thing that I try to help them is to educate them and help them see what the possibilities are and how you can, still be able to budget, live a modest life off of whatever you have. Everything comes down to you being able to realistically allocate, what you're going to spend on certain things, what you're going to forego, right? And what you're going to, prioritize on. And more importantly, I really try to educate them on money. I think that, it's very important to start young as kids, understanding money. My kids have their piggy banks and stuff. We give them money throughout the year, but guess what? When it's Christmas time, you have to buy presents for people. They get it out of their piggy banks. I'm not going to fund that present that they want to buy for their fellow siblings. I'm not doing it. That's why you're saving that money throughout the year. Last year, they did a lot of little jobs around the neighborhood in terms of, plowing snow from the driveways of neighbors, getting paid good money, and that goes into the piggy bank. When there's birthdays and stuff, you're taking money out of your piggy bank and funding that. When my birthday comes around, they spoil me. I don't pay for nothing. They're taking that out of their piggy bank. I think that it's very important for kids to start very early, educate them on money so that they understand money, educate them on how to make money. When somebody has gone through the process of making the money themselves, they're not just going to turn around and spend it on anything. Educate them on how to prioritize and make choices when they have to choose between spending on one thing or another. So I think, just help them very early on in their life to see a perspective of, you can make money for yourself. You don't need to rely on people, and you can be able to budget and effectively, achieve certain things. And why not? You can grow your money. During my kids, their birthdays and Christmas parents, they get stocks for presents, right? And I show them how the stocks are growing in the stock market. You need to get them in when they're early because your time horizon is very important. I don't know if whoever is live, use those who are tuning in, grab a compound calculator and just put some numbers in. If you're saving $50 a month, right? Put your time horizon. When you're young, time is your biggest tailwind. Put 20 years, 30 years, and put a fixed amount that you're investing. and tell me what that number is at the end of 20 years. You'll be surprised. You can be a millionaire if you want.
Absolutely. You know, you just made a very, very important point. And all those that are part, I see we have across my different platforms, we have about 40 people online. Please share. If you have any questions for Jocelyn, please just leave it on the comment. I'm looking at the comment area as well. I will be asking some of those questions to her. You made some very good points, especially with the fact that you let your kids go out there and do work and get paid, and you make them understand the value of money, because that is something that most of us parents, we don't understand and we don't do. We make money feel as if it's so easy to make to get, so we just give it, we just hand it out to these kids. They get that conception that things are so easy. I'm just coming from a class that I was teaching over 15 kids about how to make money, how to spend money, and how to invest money. And some of these kids, along with their parents, they were in that class. Some of these parents, they confess that just from day one they are learning something that they have never implemented in their own lives. And this drives me to the point of, what does legacy and generational wealth mean to you?
I think for me, it really comes down to being able to empower the generations, current to come, right, in terms of ways that they can build wealth over time. If you're gonna, build it and it can't last from a generation to a generation, in my opinion, it's not generational wealth, and that's gonna come through empowering. I empower my kids. I work hard, they see it, right? I work hard. Hopefully, I can hand things down to them, but I also empower them to be able to make a life for themselves. And I'm hoping that they're going to pass that down, from generation to generation. To me, it's really just, empowering, the generations and being able to open their eyes to avenues where they can build and sustain wealth over time. Now, wealth is very relative. To some people, it means different things. To some, they want to be on the top, I don't know, Forbes list or international list of most, wealthiest people. For me, that's not what it is. For me, it's as simple as being able to live comfortably for myself, for the people around me, and being able to build that mindset in my kids so that they know that the possibilities are out there. They can pursue them and they can continue to live comfortably and hopefully pass that on to
Wow,
other generations.
that is impressive. Even in Proverbs, in Proverbs, it says a good man or woman leaves a generation, leaves a legacy for his children's children. And I believe that a legacy is not just leaving assets to kids, it's leaving something in them. I've always told my kids, there might be, I might not leave you anything in assets, but I will leave you something in you that will burn and will burn for multi generations to come by the grace of God. I don't believe my mom I was raised by a single mom. She didn't leave me anything. Today, I've done well for myself. I continue to do the best for myself. But at the same time, I believe that
I lost,
kids, are
I
you there?
lost you, I think.
Can you hear me?
Is my
I can still
volume
hear
off?
you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now I can hear you. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that we have to start having these conversations, right? Especially us diasporans. I think we spend too much time on social and just partying and enjoying ourselves, but we don't engage in such conversation on how to bring everything together, especially from a career perspective to an opportunity to grow our individual selves, or an opportunity to bring our kids involved and teaching them the economy that we find ourselves. Let me ask you this. What are the various steps that you have taken over time, right, to get to a position of comfort that you find yourself, especially from a world building perspective?
Yeah, I think I'm so fortunate that just coming from a finance background, that just kind of opens up my mind in terms of being able to understand, all the different opportunities that are out there. I think for me, there's different stepping stones. Obviously, it starts from the very basic things like being able to build a great career for yourself, being very clear and intentional about what you want in terms of, career for yourself, and obviously working through the stepping stones. If you want to go get a CPA, if that's what's going to take you to thrive in your finance career, wherever you are, stop postponing it, go get it, right? Now there's that, but obviously, the opportunities have to meet you, or you have to meet those opportunities for things to work out for you. I'm somebody that I spend a lot of time, as you mentioned, instead of scrolling Facebook and TikToks. I don't even know what a TikTok is. I don't have an account or anything like that. I spend time on forums, on Reddit. There's a bunch of different forums that you can join. You join forums of people who are trying to fire, so financial independence, retire early. People are building wealth. You join educative financial forums that are gonna just help you to see how much is out there. I spend a lot of time on those platforms. That has unlocked a lot of opportunities for me. There's a bunch of other complexities that you have to navigate depending on what stage you are in life. I think for me personally, building a lucrative career for myself, being very savvy from a financial perspective and very intentionally investing in financial markets. I'm fortunate to be able to manage my portfolios for myself. I also invest, outside of financial markets, invest in real estate. Just make sure you have a balanced portfolio. Now, I know that can be intimidating for a lot of people, right? I don't expect that everybody is savvy enough, and that's where you need to be able to educate yourself. There's a lot of free resources out there where you can educate yourself, or speak to a fund manager, somebody who knows better. It takes a lot of being able to have a high risk tolerance to navigate some of these things, but you have to know what your end game is and be consistent. So for me, in terms of key milestones, education, career for myself, being very informative about avenues of building wealth, and actually identifying and pursuing the ones that I want to, focus on.
That is impressive. That is impressive. Let me ask you this. You brought a lot of key points in this segment. Let me ask you this. When did you get an understanding about the fact that you can, I know maybe in Canada you guys have a retirement fund, but that's fine. But when did you start investing for yourself? And when did you start understanding that, okay, I might have 15 more years, 10 years to work. I have a target that I want to get to. It's better to have a target than to just leave. It's like you're going out, you take your keys, you don't have a direction, you don't have a GPS, you just keep driving. When did you start putting all of this together to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I think I would say, around 2013, 2014, at that time, I would say it was really very premature. Because at that point, obviously, I know that I need to do certain things if I want to retire comfortably, but I wasn't very knowledgeable at the time in terms of how I'm going to pursue this. So I'll give you an example. Like, back then, my investments are going to be like in mutual funds that are managed by a bank, right? And then when you start looking into the details, like you get your statement, you start looking into the details of the fees that they charge, the management fees, and even the performance of your portfolio. Those are really like AI and robot things that are just buying and selling things for yourself. I'm like, that's not what I'm paying for, right? So I think it started in around 2014 or so, but by the time COVID hit, just being home for a lot of the time and being able to do other things, that is when my eyes opened up. So 2018, around the time frame, and I'm going to tell you between 2018 and now, what a difference, for me, that was the defining moment. Again, like I said, you need to be very risk tolerant. If you're somebody who wants to gamble, short time frame, short horizon, it's risky. If time is on your side, that's when I became very intentional about, combination of, investing and combination of tax planning, combination of retirement planning. There's all these different vehicles that you can leverage, right? To be able to optimize, taxes and a bunch of other things, and put you in a position where in 20 years where I'm planning to retire, I know a target of what I want to retire with. I have to work backwards what I need to do today to be in that position. Now, we can plan all we want, but life is very unpredictable, right? We can plan all these things, and who knows, maybe I might not be able to work till 20 years. You need to factor all of these things. And that's where there's a bunch of other things that come in, insurance and stuff. You have to balance things out and think carefully about what your end game is and then plan from there. But for me, 2018, around the COVID time.
Wow. So, what are some of the strategies? Some folks, there is this regular, I'll say, formula that's out there, the 50-30-20 rule or the 60-30-10 rule, in which 50% goes to your needs, 30% goes to your wants, then 20% goes to you. Do you have any kind of a strategy on how you do your investments?
In terms of overall, for needs, what goes to my needs and savings, I kind of work backwards. I prioritize what goes to my savings, and then the residual I have to fit my needs and run things within
So
that.
you
Now,
pay yourself first.
yes, I pay myself first, and then before I start paying others through spending on things that I can't recoup. Now, in terms of actually investing, I kind of balance things out. My risk tolerance is not very high. For me, I prefer steady growth versus, taking significant amount of risk. So in my portfolio, I have a combination of, I'm going to have I call it, my slush fund, right? I can have, a grand or two that I'm like, I'm going to gamble this on, something, right? And then hope, if I lose it, lose it.
Lose it,
If I
yeah.
don't lose it, something comes of it. But a significant portion of my portfolio is well planned. I mainly invest in exchange traded funds, so ETFs. So you have, the experts have already done this for you. They've put together portfolios that will mimic, certain indexes in the stock exchange. You just have to pick the one that works for you, depending on your risk tolerance. If you want exposure to the U.S. market, there's certain ones you can pick. You want international emerging markets, there's certain ones you can pick. A lot of the work has already been done for you. So I really, invest a lot in ETFs. I do not invest in individual stocks. They're just subject to a lot of swings, and I don't want to get caught up. But at the same time, I'm also very intentional in terms of my end game. So markets are going to swing, crash, go up, right? The question is, what is your investment horizon? If I'm investing over 20-year horizon, that doesn't matter whether the market crashes. In fact, when it crashes, that's when I get in.
Okay.
And I put in more money and I buy more. If you're somebody who is going to panic, you're always going to be, buying high and selling low and losing money.
Wow. What is the biggest financial mistake you've ever made? And what did it teach you?
Biggest financial mistake, I think I probably would have been a very rich woman now if I had gone through with this. But back in 2017, 2016 timeframe, I literally went on a computer to buy 5 Bitcoins. At the time, it was selling for 700 Canadian dollar at the time. I didn't have the money. I was using my credit card. My bank kept declining the transaction. I tried to push it, they declined it, and then I let it go. In hindsight, maybe I could have made money on it, or maybe I could have panicked when it went up to I don't know what and sold.
Yeah.
I cannot speculate on that. But I think in terms of financial mistakes, I think I've made a few, buying a car, and you leave the lot and you know that you made a mistake in terms of, spending this kind of money. I've made a few mistakes, but not a lot. I'm usually pretty savvy when it comes to things like that.
That is great. What, as we run up, as we get to the top of the hour here, what when your career and your building journey is over, what do you hope people remember most about Jocelyn?
I think for me, I do a lot in terms of coaching and mentoring. I try to help people build the confidence that they need to be able to navigate their careers. I want people to remember me for being able to, help them navigate certain decisions or give them insights that can help them to navigate certain things for themselves. I am very intentional as somebody who is a people manager in terms of feedback, how I deliver that. I'm not somebody who's gonna sweeten the deal and tell you how you're the absolute best. If there's something you need to work on, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you this is what you need to work on. I think for me, I just want people to remember me for being somebody who was able to hold their hand, show them the way, right? At certain points in their career, I've benefited from that a lot. I have coaches and mentors of my own, and I'm going to tell you that if I'm anywhere near where I am today, they've played a very big role in terms of helping me to be able to unlock the potential and the pathways that I can navigate for myself.
Yeah, so those of you that are watching here, this is free mentoring and coaching, but you have to be serious. If you need help and stuff, this is somebody that can help you no matter what career you find yourself. Even building wealth, you can talk to them. Sometimes some folks they're like, "Oh, I'm in this business, I cannot talk to somebody that." No. The sea has a lot of fish to catch. So reach out to anyone to see that you can connect with to build. If every person watching today, whether on the continent or in the diaspora, could walk away with one just piece of advice about building wealth, about advancing their career, creating a lasting legacy, what would that message be?
Building wealth, start early. You need to start early. Time is your biggest tailwind. Like I said, go find a compounding calculator, put the numbers in. If you're saving $100 a month, that's going into investing. I don't know, in ETFs. And the beauty of it is that these days you can do fractional share purchasing. You don't need to buy a whole share. You can bring your $100 and buy something. Start early. Put the time frame in your time horizon and see for yourself how much it's gonna grow. In terms of your career, navigate your career with intention. Lock or key into coaching and mentoring sessions. Expand your network. There's a lot of opportunities that are going to be out there that you're just going to know because you know people. But it's not knowing people that's going to get you the role. But it's good to know that it's out there and that's going to help you. I would say, yeah, just network. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you made mention of compound interest, and there's a saying there that's I'm sure it's by Einstein. He says the eight wonders of the world. Those that understand it will gain something, and those that do not understand it, they will lose. I remember a couple years back, I started a portfolio with $20. I have multiple $100,000 in that account today, and we are in a position where you can start building a portfolio for yourself with $5. I remember over 15 years ago, we didn't have that opportunity. You need to be a higher middle class for you to even invest. You need $10,000, $15,000, and you had to go to the Merrill Lynch, to the Edward Jones, to the Fidelity for you to start investing. But right now, from the phone, you can open a brokerage account and start that investing journey today. And that is why we at WallSmart we came into place, because we realized that there is just a lot of misconception out there. And seeing you, especially, there are three ways in building wealth. And the three ways are starting a business, investing in the stock market, and investing in real estate. And you're doing all the three. That is how the rich people they build wealth. They make money and they use real estate as a tax to do their tax write-off. So most of us today, all we think about is just working hard and working hard and working hard. And you have also aligned the importance of mentorship and coaching. I have more than seven mentors. I pay for mentorship. I pay huge amount for mentorship. That's why I am in this position that I find myself. And I love the fact that you said aligning yourself with people that you want, that you look up to. Most of us, we go to work, we come back, we don't have any grit or any drive. We don't talk to people that we admire. When we see people that we admire, maybe we either say bad things about them rather than meeting them and ask them, how do we do the work that we admire about them? What are the last words that you want to leave for people here today that are watching you? And again, thank you all guys for watching It has been incredible. We've had over 40 people here in and out. So what are the last words you're going to leave to these people?
Yeah, I'm going to say, you don't have to be rich or be in a position where you're rich to be able to have access to some of the things that we've discussed today. Knowledge is power. Reach out to people who are more savvy, or to a fund manager, to Dr. Edimo, in terms of, where do you start, right? Like I mentioned before, debt is a killer. You're going to have to, work on your debt to be in a position where you can start somewhere, but reach out to people who are very knowledgeable. I'm going to say as a disclaimer here, I'm not a licensed financial, planner or advisor, right? I'm happy to help free of charge if you want to navigate certain things, but reach out to people who are licensed, Dr. Demo and co, and they'll be able to help you, figure out where you can start, right? The problem is starting. Don't push it out. Like I said, time is your biggest tailwind. If there's an assignment I want to leave you here today, go pick up a compound calculator, put over a time horizon, put up a certain amount that you're starting with, if it's $100, $20, and put in, an expected reasonable rate of return, even if you're very, conservative, like 5-6%, if you invest that in the stock market, and see what it's going to do for you. The bad thing, inflation is so high that if you're not investing, you're losing money because your purchasing power is declining significantly. So you can start. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to have a lot. You can start from anywhere.
Yeah, just for the fact that you talked about a compound interest calculator, I'd like to bring that up. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is simple. And this is what Jocelyn has been talking about. So take for somebody that just started working, they don't need to make that much, $200. They're in their 20s, they want to work till their 60s. All the average here, again, you don't have to go invest in risky stocks. You average 10% every year, and every month you contribute that $200. That means if you're living in the United States that they pay you every 2 weeks, you can say, okay, you know what? I'm investing $100 every month. By the time you're 60, you have $1.1 million.
Yes.
So there haven't been an easier way for folks to build wealth. So this is simply what Jocelyn is talking about, and folks should start thinking. I used to sit back first, and when people say, "Oh, they want to be millionaires and stuff," I said that's not possible. There was a time that I didn't even have $5,000 saved, but it's because of what I knew at that time and the people that I surrounded myself with. Things are changing so fast these days. Folks will be losing their jobs and stuff like that. Things are changing so fast. So the thing is, if we don't position ourselves to make sure that we are in a better position to take upon this fast changing environment that we find ourselves, we will be left behind. So again, as usual, thank you very, very much for your time, Jocelyn. Thank you for everything that you do to our community. And we really, really appreciate your time today at WallSmart. And again, we would love to have you here sometime again in the future. And what parting words do you have for the guest?
Thank you so much, everyone who was able to tune in. I hope you were able to, learn a thing or two, or even if you didn't learn anything, hopefully, that kind of gets you thinking in terms of, where do I go from here? So thanks for your time, and thanks for joining in. And again, if you have follow-up questions, reach out. Dr. Edimo, myself, I'm more than happy to help. And hope you have a wonderful day. Speaking of that, England is playing, and I'm an avid England supporter.
I just wanted to say England will start playing in 6 minutes, and Jocelyn, she lives in England, so she's rooting for England, and we are all rooting for England here. Thank you again for your time, and God bless you, Jocelyn. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Bye.